Hello, my dear brothers and sisters. It is Sister Mary. We are in Genesis chapter 28 of the Amplified Bible. So Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and commanded him, "You shall not marry one of the women of Canaan. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel your mother's father, and take from there as a wife one of the daughters of Laban your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you until you become a group of peoples. May he give the blessing he gave to Abraham to you and your descendants with you, that you may inherit the land he gave to Abraham, in which you are a sojourner." Thus Isaac sent Jacob away. He went to Padan Aram to Laban, son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob, and Esau's mother. Now Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him to Padan Aram to take him a wife from there, and that as he blessed him, he gave him a charge, saying, "You shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan." And that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother, and had gone to Padan Aram. Also Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan did not please Isaac his father. So Esau went to Ishmael, and took to be his wife, in addition to the wives he already had, Mahalath, daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth. And Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he came to a certain place and stayed there overnight, because the sun was set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down there to sleep. And he dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood over and beside him, and said, "I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, your forefather, and the God of Isaac. I will give to you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. And your offspring shall be as countless as the dust or sand of the ground, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east, and the north and the south. And by you and your offspring shall all the families of the earth be blessed and bless themselves. And behold, I am with you, and will keep watch over you with care, take notice of you wherever you may go. And I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done all of which I have told you." And Jacob awoke from his sleep, and he said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." He was afraid, and said, "How to be feared and reverenced is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gateway to heaven." And Jacob rose early in the morning, and took the stone he had put under his head, and he set it up for a pillar, a monument to the vision in his dream. And he poured oil on its top in dedication. And he named the place Bethel, the house of God. But the name of that city was Luz at first. And then Jacob made a vow, saying, "If God will be with me and will keep me in this way, then I go and will give me food to eat and clothing to wear, so that I may come again to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. And this stone which I have set up as a pillar, a monument, shall be God's house, a sacred place to me. And of all the increase of possessions that you give me, I will give the tenth to you." Genesis chapter 29. Then Jacob went briskly and cheerfully on his way 400 miles, and came to the land of the people of the east. As he looked, he saw a well in the field, and behold, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well the flocks were watered. The stone on the well's mouth was a big one. And when all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone from the well's mouth, and water the sheep, and replace the stone on the well's mouth. And Jacob said to them, "My brothers, where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Haran." Jacob said to them, "Do you know Laban, the grandson of Nahor?" And they said, "We know him." And he said to them, "Is it well with him?" And they said, "He is doing well, and behold, here comes his daughter Rachel with his sheep." He said, "The sun is still high. It is a long time yet before the flocks need be gathered in their folds. Why not order the sheep and return them to their pasture? But they said, We cannot until all the flocks are gathered together. Then the shepherds roll the stone from the well's mouth, and we water the sheep. While he was still talking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she shepherded them. When Jacob saw Rachel, daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his uncle, Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of his uncle Laban. Then Jacob kissed Rachel, and he wept aloud. Jacob told Rachel he was her father's relative, Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. When Laban heard of the arrival of Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him, and embraced and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And Jacob told Laban all these things. Then Laban said to him, Surely you are my bone and my flesh. And Jacob stayed with him a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, Just because you are my relative, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be? Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were weak and dull-looking, but Rachel was beautiful and attractive. And Jacob loved Rachel. So he said, I will work for you for 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to you than to another man. Stay and live with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel. And they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. Finally Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife, for my time is completed, so that I may take her to me. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place, and made a feast with drinking. But when night came, he took Leah his daughter, and brought her to Jacob, who had intercourse with her. And Laban gave Zilpah, his maid, to his daughter Leah to be her maid. But in the morning Jacob saw his wife, and behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, What is this that you have done to me? Did I not work for you all those 7 years for Rachel? Why then have you deceived and cheated and thrown me down like this? And Laban said, It is not permitted in our country to give the younger in marriage before the elder. Finish the wedding feast, weep for Leah, and then we will give you Rachel also, and you shall work for me yet 7 more years in return. So Jacob complied and fulfilled Leah's week. Then Laban gave him Rachel his daughter as his wife. And Laban gave Bilhah his maid to Rachel, his daughter, to be her maid. And Jacob lived with Rachel also as his wife, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served Laban another 7 years for her. And when the Lord saw that Leah was despised, he made her able to bear children. But Rachel was barren. And Leah became pregnant and bore a son, and named him Reuben. See, a son. For she said, Because the Lord has seen my humiliation and affliction, now my husband will love me. Leah became pregnant again and bore a son, and said, Because the Lord heard that I am despised, he has given me this son also. And she named him Simeon. God hears. And she became pregnant again, and bore a son, and said, Now this time will my husband be a companion to me, for I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore he was named Levi, which is companion. Again she conceived, and bore a son. And she said, Now will I praise the Lord. So she called his name Judah, which is praise. Then for a time she ceased bearing. When Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she envied her sister, and said to Jacob, Give me children, or else I will die. We are in Genesis chapter 30. And Jacob became very angry with Rachel, and he said, Am I in God's stead? Who has denied you children? And she said, See here, take my maid Bilhah, and have intercourse with her. And when the baby comes, she shall deliver it up on my knees, that I may by her have children. and she gave him Bilhah, her maid, as a secondary wife, and Jacob had intercourse with her. And Bilhah became pregnant and bore Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God has judged and vindicated me, and has heard my plea, and has given me a son. So she named him Dan, which is judged. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again, and bore Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, with mighty wrestlings in prayer to God, I have struggled with my sister, and have prevailed. So she named him the second son, Bilhah bore, Naphtaliah, struggled. When Leah saw that she had ceased to bear, she gave Zilpah her maid to Jacob as a secondary wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, Victory and good fortune have come. And she named him Gad, which is fortune. Zilpah, Leah's maid, bore Jacob her second son. And Leah said, I am happy, for women will call me blessed, happy, fortunate, to be envied. And she named him Asher, which is happy. Now Reuben went at the time of wheat harvest, and found some mandrakes, love apples, in the field, and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray you, some of your son's mandrakes. But Leah answered, Is it not enough that you have taken my husband, without your taking away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Jacob shall sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, You must sleep with me tonight, for I have certainly paid your hire with my son's mandrakes. So he slept with her that night. And God heeded Leah's prayer, and she conceived and bore Jacob, her fifth son. Leah said, God has given me my hire, because I have given my maid to my husband. And she called his name Issachar, hired. And Leah became pregnant again and bore Jacob, her sixth son. Then Leah said, God has endowed me with a good marriage gift. For my husband, now will he dwell with me, and regard me as his wife in reality, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she named him Zebulun, which is dwelling. Afterward she bore a daughter, and called her Daniah. Then God remembered Rachel, and answered her pleading, and made it possible for her to have children. And now for the first time she became pregnant and bore a son. And she said, God has taken away my reproach, disgrace, and humiliation. And she called his name Joseph. May he add, and said, May the Lord add to me another son. When Rachel had borne Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, Send me away, that I may go to my own place and country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know the work which I have done for you. And Laban said to him, If I have found favor in your sight, I pray you, do not go, for I have learned by experience and from the omens in divination that the Lord has favored me with blessings on your account. He said, State your salary, and I will give it. And Jacob answered him, You know how I have served you, and how your possessions, your cattle, and sheep, and goats have fared with me. For you had little before I came, and it has increased and multiplied abundantly. And the Lord has favored you with blessings wherever I turned. But now, when shall I provide for my own house also? Laban said, What shall I give you? And Jacob said, You shall not give me anything, if you will not do this one thing for me, of which I am about to tell you, and I will again feed and take care of your flock. Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from it every speckled and spotted animal, and every black one among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. And such shall be my wages. So later, when the matter of my wages is brought before you, my fair dealing will be evident and answer for me. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and black among the sheep, is found with me, shall be counted as stolen. And Laban said, Good, let it be done as you say. But that same day Laban removed the he-goats that were streaked and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had white on it, and every black lamb, and put them in charge of his sons. And he set a distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob. And Jacob was then left in care of the rest of Laban's flock. But Jacob took fresh rods of poplar and almond and plane trees, and peeled white streaks in them, exposing the white in the rods. Then he set the rods which he had peeled in front of the flocks in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink. And since they bred and conceived when they came to drink, the flocks bred and conceived in sight of the rods, and brought forth lambs and kids, streaked, speckled, and spotted. Jacob separated the lambs, and as he had done with the peeled rods, he also set the faces of the flocks toward the streaked, and all the dark in the new flock of Laban he put his own droves by themselves, and did not let them breed with Laban's flock. And whenever the stronger animals were breeding, Jacob laid the rods in the watering troughs before the eyes of the flock, that they might breed and conceive among the rods. But when the sheep and goats were feeble, he omitted putting the rods there. So the feebler animals were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. Thus the man increased and became exceedingly rich, and had many sheep and goats, and maidservants and men servants, camels and donkeys.